Amber Heard just said something that shocked a lot of people, not about Johnny Depp, not about the verdict, not even about the trial itself. She said, "I don't want to use my voice anymore." That one sentence says more than any courtroom clip ever could. It raises a question no one expected. How does someone go from speaking out to choosing silence? And what really happened behind the scenes that pushed her there? Because this isn't just about a celebrity trial. This is about what happens when the most public legal battle of the decade doesn't end. When the verdict is read, it follows you for years afterward, and that's where this story really begins. Amber Heard recently made a rare public appearance in a documentary called Silenced. It screened at the 2026 Sundance Film Festival, and it marked one of the few times she's spoken publicly since the trial that dominated headlines in social media. But instead of defending herself, attacking anyone, or revisiting old arguments, Amber said something completely unexpected. She told the director, "This is not about me. I have lost my ability to speak. I'm not here to tell my story. I don't want to tell my story. In fact, I don't want to use my voice anymore." That wasn't a PR line. That wasn't a legal strategy that sounded like exhaustion. For years, people assumed Amber would eventually return with a tell-all interview, a book, or a dramatic public redemption arc. But instead she's choosing something far quieter and far more unsettling, because when someone says they no longer want to use their voice, it usually means something broke along the way. And what broke didn't start with the documentary. It started in a courtroom. The legal battle between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp didn't just become a trial. It became a global spectacle. Every motion, every facial expression, every whispered exchange was turned into viral content within minutes. What began as a defamation lawsuit over a Washington Post ED quickly transformed into a 6-week trial that dominated headlines, YouTube streams, TikTok edits, and late-night jokes. Millions of people weren't just watching, they were picking sides. The courtroom wasn't just a place for legal arguments. It became a stage for public opinion, internet culture, and emotional theater. Both Amber and Johnny accused each other of abuse. Both presented evidence. Both told painful stories, but unlike most trials, this one didn't stay inside the courtroom walls. It spilled onto social media, into comment sections, onto podcasts, and across global news outlets. Every testimony became a meme, every emotional moment became a clip, and every mistake became ammunition. When the verdict finally came, Amber was found liable on all 3 counts of defamation related to her op-ed and ordered to pay over $10 million in damages. Johnny, meanwhile, was ordered to pay $2 million for 1 count in Amber's counter-suit. Later they reached a settlement. Amber would pay $1 million and Johnny would donate it to charity on paper that ended the case. But in reality, that's when the consequences really began. Because court verdicts end lawsuits, they don't end public judgment. After the trial, Amber didn't just lose a legal case, she lost control of her narrative. Her face became a reaction meme, her voice became audio used in parody videos, her courtroom expressions were slowed down, zoomed in, edited, and replayed millions of times across platforms. The trial didn't just make headlines, it became entertainment, and once something becomes entertainment, empathy often disappears. Instead of being treated as a real person involved in a painful, complex situation, Amber became a character in an online drama series. People weren't just discussing her, they were mocking her, remixing her, and attacking her. Online harassment escalated quickly, trolls flooded her social media, strangers sent messages filled with insults, threats, and cruelty. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Even years later, clips from the trial still resurface, often stripped of context, turned into jokes, or used to reignite old arguments. And unlike celebrities who weather short-term scandals, Amber's name became permanently linked to one of the most divisive trials in modern pop culture. That kind of attention doesn't fade, it lingers. And living inside that storm changes how a person sees the world and themselves. In the documentary, Amber talks about something deeper than just public backlash. She talks about how speaking out didn't protect her, it made things worse. She explains that when the idea of speaking to the press came up during one of the trials, her legal team warned her to think carefully. But at the time she believed that if people attacked her, it would only prove her point. She didn't expect it to escalate the way it did. She said she didn't realize how much worse it could become for her as a woman for using her voice. That statement is important because it highlights something rarely discussed: the emotional cost of public storytelling when power dynamics are involved. The documentary focuses on how defamation laws can be weaponized against abuse survivors, not as a legal technicality, but as a real war deterrent to speaking out. Amber isn't saying her story is the only one that matters. In fact, she explicitly says, "This is not about me." What she's pointing to is something larger, a system where speaking out doesn't always lead to protection, justice, or closure. Sometimes it leads to punishment, isolation, and permanent public scrutiny. And after years of that scrutiny, she reached a point where she no longer wanted to participate in it at all. Silence for her wasn't surrender, it was survival, but something else changed Amber's perspective, something deeply personal. She became a mother. Today, Amber is a mom to 3 young children, twins Ocean and Agnes and her daughter Una Page, and in the documentary she speaks about how motherhood reshaped her. Her view of the world. She talks about looking at her daughter's face as she grows up and begins to walk into the world. That moment, she says, fills her with both hope and responsibility. She believes the world can be better, not perfect, not fair, but better. Motherhood didn't erase the pain she experienced, but it changed how she carried it. It shifted her focus from public opinion to private responsibility, from online battles to real-life moments, from defending herself to protecting her children. For Amber, the question stopped being, "How do I clear my name?" It became, "What kind of world am I raising my children into?" And that question doesn't have a courtroom answer. After the trial, Amber largely stepped away from Hollywood. Her acting career slowed, high-profile roles disappeared. She moved out of the United States and relocated to Europe, reportedly seeking privacy and a quieter life. She stopped attending red carpets. She stopped giving interviews. She stopped engaging in public debates about the case. For someone who once lived in the spotlight, that silence was striking. Some people interpreted it as defeat, others saw it as guilt. Some assumed it meant she had nothing left to say, but the documentary suggests something different. It suggests she had too much to say and no safe place to say it. When your voice becomes a weapon used against you, silence can feel like the only shield left. Amber Heard's rare comments aren't about reopening the trial, they're about closing a chapter not because she won, not because she lost, but because she reached a point where continuing to speak felt more damaging than staying quiet and then into spectacle. What does it really